Hey guys, it's Bridget with San Jose Seed Company, and today I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of growing in a raised bed or any type of structure that's not directly in the ground. So whether or not it's a metal raised bed or it's pots that are hovering above the ground or it's wooden raised beds, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons so you know whether or not that is a good structure to set up in your garden. Now, I can't say how important it is that you do your research before you start a garden so that you know what is the right path to take, whether or not you're starting in-ground, raised beds, pots. Now, there's not a right answer that fits everyone, and in fact, it shouldn't be a debate. It's more about understanding the pros and cons of each scenario so that you can make a decision that's good for your garden and invest your time, money, and energy wisely. Now, if you watch this whole video, you're gonna have a really good understanding of the pros and cons of planting in a raised bed and how you should consider each factor for planning your garden. I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've planted in everything possible, from hydroponic systems to in-ground to above ground to any hybrid version of that. And what's the most important to know is all the factors that play into the pros and cons of that so that you can decide what makes sense for you. Okay, so let's first start off with the pros of any raised bed. And let me just clarify before I start this. I'm grouping everything outside of in-ground planting together. And what do I mean by that? I mean raised beds like this. I mean pots, containers, basically anything that's not directly into the ground. Those are the things that I'm going to talk about in this video because they all have similar pros and cons. So pros of raised beds is, first of all, it's raised up off the ground and you can fill it with really good soil. It's less work to some degree because you can put really good soil in and you can put in really good fertilizer and it's all contained. That's a really great pro. And the same concept applies to if you have pots. You put really good potting mix in them. You put really good compost. You can buy bagged product. You're not using big old wheelbarrows and things like that. And with pots, not so much raised beds, you can move them around. They're portable. That's a really good pro, especially in zone 9 and 10. It's really nice to be able to move a pot into a shadier, cooler area of your garden or your patio, so you can actually have season extension by simply finding an area of your garden that's more comfortable for that particular plant. These pots, one of the reasons why we've planted in these particular ones is these are cool season flowers, ranunculus and freesias and anemones, and I can actually move these into cooler parts of my garden to extend the time that they will be happy and flowering. So it's a great pro of doing a container or any type of pots that you can actually move around. So another pro to planting in a container of some sort is you don't even need a patio. You don't even need a yard. You can actually grow in a window. You can use a hydroponic system. You can use any system that will basically hold what the plants need to grow, which is water and nutrients, and give it some sunlight, and you can have plants. That's a really great benefit of growing in some type of container. So another pro of planting either in a pot or a raised bed is you have less gopher pressure. Now in a pot like this, a gopher simply can't get in it because it's ceramic. And if you're planting in a raised bed, if you put down gopher wire, which is actually hardware cloth, not chicken wire, people think you can use that, but gophers can actually get through, so you really want to use hardware cloth. But you can protect your crops from gophers actually entering in and eating the roots. One of the reasons why we have these beautiful, very expensive flowers in here is because I don't want them getting eaten up by gophers. So another benefit of raised beds is improved airflow and better accessibility. Now, if you watched our other video on in-ground planting, you'll notice that most of my garden is in-ground planting, but we have raised beds here, and that's not just a willy-nilly choice. We did that because we needed to have better soil for these plants to access because these guys have gotten out of control. Our bamboo, which has actually made the soil very hard and dense, and very little airflow can get in there. So by building raised beds, we fill it with good soil, it's light, it's pliable, air can get in, and the plants are a lot happier. Okay, so I went over a lot of the pros. There might be more. Make sure you comment on this video and let me know if I missed anything. But cons are that when you have a raised bed like this or a pot, you're limited to this amount of space. This is all you get for your planting, which means you can't plant as densely and close together, because as the roots grow, they're going to fill up this bed, and there's just simply less volume of soil for the root systems to go through. Now, this raised bed doesn't have a bottom. It's directly on the soil, and so in theory the roots can go down into that soil, but as I mentioned, the soil underneath this bed isn't great, which is why we built the raised bed to begin with. All right, another con of any structure that is above ground is it's going to dry out quicker. Now let's go back to 6th grade science class and figure out why that is. There's more airflow. By increasing the sides, right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, however many sides on this bed, the air can flow around it, and particularly in zone 9 and 10, and right now when we're having hot Santa Anas, the moisture is sucked out of this bed so quickly that I have to water more often and in shorter intervals to keep the moisture in there. You can see this guy is not happy, and believe it or not, this looks really dry, but I actually hand watered this really heavily just a day ago, but hot air is flowing over this and it's being sucked out. So anytime you have a raised bed, you're going to have to water more often than you think because of the increased airflow and surface area. So another con to raised bed or pots is that you have to, most of the time, you have to buy them. And so there's a cost associated with them, whether or not it's something like this, where it's a metal bed, or it's a pot that you're planting into. It can get expensive, but I want to mention that it doesn't have to. You can be creative on how you build your raised beds. And in fact, this little area here, we've actually used this is just old wood that came from a tree that got cut down, and we've used it to build this bed to kind of hold in good soil. And it's not a great example, but it is a way in which we have used free product to make a garden space where we can grow without spending a bunch of money. So remember that there is no right answer, and it shouldn't be a debate. This is one of the things that you just have to look to your gardening friend and say, well, I respectfully agree to disagree because this is my circumstances, and your particular circumstance, both physical, financially, and otherwise, is going to dictate how you garden. And remember also, circumstances change. So you can see that most of our garden here is in ground, but then we also started building some raised beds because over time the soil in that area has been taken over by the roots of bamboo. So just know the pros and cons, make a really good decision, and enjoy the gardening journey, and know it could change for you, and that's okay. So if you're in zone 9 and 10 and you're a gardener, subscribe to our channel so that we can be a part of your gardening journey. And I would love it if you commented on this video and just let me know, was there a pro or a con that I missed? Or what are your questions that you have when you're trying to decide how to start your garden, so that you can save your time, energy, and money and make a good decision from the beginning. All right, now remember, everyone's space is different. And so what you require in your space is going to be totally different than somebody else who's gardening even in your same city or your same state. It depends on what you're growing, what your goals are, and what you want to get out of your garden that's going to help you decide how you're going to grow. The important thing is knowing the pros and cons that we've listed in this video so you can make a good decision. Now, we also have a video on in-ground planting and the pros and cons of that decision. So check that out so that you're fully armored with everything that you need to know so that you can make a good decision on how to start your garden.